Gaslighting is a form of manipulation that distorts your reality, leaving you doubting your thoughts, feelings, and even memories. It's one of the most insidious tactics used by toxic individuals. But here's the twist. For someone practicing Stoicism, gaslighting isn't just a challenge, it's an opportunity. It's a test of your inner strength, self-awareness, and ability to stay grounded in your principles. Let's explore the 10 signs of gaslighting and how Stoicism can help you not just survive but thrive in these situations. Sign number 1. You constantly doubt yourself. When someone is gaslighting you, one of their main goals is to plant seeds of self-doubt. They challenge your memories, question your judgment, and undermine your confidence. Over time, this persistent manipulation makes you second-guess your ability to trust your own mind. Self-doubt is not inherently negative. Philosophers like the Stoics valued self-reflection to examine one's thoughts and actions. However, when external forces push you into unnecessary doubt, it leads to mental confusion and a loss of self-trust. Recognizing this as manipulation is the first step to regaining your footing. What would the Stoics say about self-doubt? The Stoics placed a high value on self-trust through the cultivation of reason and virtue. Marcus Aurelius, in Meditations, advised, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment." This means that while gaslighters aim to manipulate your perception of reality, you hold the ultimate power to assess whether their words deserve weight. By relying on rational evaluation, you can guard against unwarranted doubt. How gaslighting exploits Stoic teachings on doubt. Interestingly, a gaslighter may even manipulate virtues like humility or self-examination to make you doubt yourself further. They might say things like, "You need to be more open to other perspectives," or "You always think you're right. But have you ever considered you might be wrong?" In Stoicism, we're encouraged to question ourselves, to recognize our fallibility. But there's a key distinction. Healthy self-examination strengthens your character, while being forced into constant self-doubt weakens it. A Stoic differentiates between constructive doubt that leads to growth and harmful doubt imposed by others to control you. How to combat self-doubt using Stoic principles. Practice rational detachment. When doubts arise, ask yourself, are these doubts based on logic, or are they coming from external pressure? Stoics encourage using reason to analyze situations. If a gaslighter's words lack evidence, remind yourself that opinions without foundation are irrelevant. Rely on your inner guide. Epictetus believed in the power of prohoresis, the ability to align your thoughts and actions with reason and virtue. When a gaslighter questions your reality, turn inward and consult your core principles. Are you acting with integrity? Are you holding to what you know is true? If the answer is yes, let go of their criticism. Journal for clarity. Marcus Aurelius often journaled as a way to untangle complex emotions and reinforce his Stoic beliefs. Writing down your experiences and feelings can help you separate your doubts from the gaslighter's influence. Review what you know to be true and reflect on how much of your self-doubt has been imposed by manipulation. Seek feedback from trusted sources. While Stoicism emphasizes self-reliance, it doesn't reject the wisdom of others. If you're doubting your judgment, consult a trusted friend, mentor, or family member. Their perspective can act as a mirror to help you see through any distortion caused by gaslighting. Building self-trust the Stoic way. The ultimate goal in Stoicism is to live a life of virtue and alignment with nature. Part of that involves trusting yourself, your reason, your ability to act justly, and your sense of right and wrong. Gaslighting shakes this foundation, but it can't destroy it. Why? Because a Stoic's confidence isn't rooted in what others say or think. It's rooted in their unwavering commitment to virtue. When you catch yourself doubting everything, pause. Ask yourself what Marcus Aurelius might. Is this doubt serving me, or is it simply noise trying to distract me from my path? The more you strengthen your inner fortress, the more you rely on logic and virtue as your compass, the harder it becomes for anyone to make you question your worth. Gaslighting exploits your natural inclination to question yourself, but the Stoics remind us to trust reason over manipulation. By practicing self-awareness and cultivating inner strength, you can see through the haze of doubt and walk forward with clarity. This isn't about dismissing feedback or never doubting yourself. It's about learning to recognize when self-doubt is rooted in truth versus when it's being used as a tool for control. Sign number 2. They rewrite the past. Gaslighting often involves an outright denial or distortion of events that have happened. Phrases like, "That's not what I said," or "You're remembering it wrong," are subtle ways gaslighters try to make you question your perception. By rewriting the past, they plant doubt in your mind, gain control over your emotions, and reshape the narrative to suit their agenda. In the face of this manipulation, Stoicism teaches us an essential lesson. While you cannot change what someone says or does, you have complete control over how you interpret and respond to it. Epictetus reminds us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Why gaslighting shakes your reality. The human mind relies on memory to create a sense of identity. Gaslighting attacks this foundation by distorting memories, leaving you questioning your sense of reality. Stoicism acknowledges the fleeting nature of external things, including others' actions or words. What matters most isn't holding on to a rigid view of events, but cultivating an inner resilience that allows you to move forward, unshaken by the noise of manipulation. The Stoic perspective on memory and control. When someone rewrites the past, it's easy to feel the need to prove your version of events or argue over the truth. However, Epictetus offers a liberating perspective. Some things are up to us, and some things are not up to us. You cannot control another person's interpretation of events or their attempts to alter the narrative. What you can control is your ability to stay grounded in what you know to be true. You don't need to fight over distorted accounts. Your peace of mind lies in your commitment to reason and integrity. How to handle past distortions using Stoic wisdom. Acknowledge what's unchangeable. Stoicism emphasizes accepting what is outside your control. The gaslighter's words or actions, however frustrating, are not yours to dictate. Instead of expending energy trying to make them acknowledge the truth, focus on what you can control, your response and your perspective. Rely on logic over emotion. Marcus Aurelius teaches, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When the past is twisted, emotions like frustration or self-doubt can cloud judgment. Instead, focus on the facts. Use logic to assess the situation and ask yourself, what aligns with reason and evidence? Maintain inner clarity through reflection. Regular self-reflection is a cornerstone of Stoicism. Journal your thoughts, memories, and feelings to clarify your perspective and strengthen your conviction. Marcus Aurelius frequently wrote reflections to reinforce his understanding of life's challenges. Doing this allows you to cement your version of events and resist external manipulations. Practice emotional detachment. Gaslighting thrives on provoking emotional reactions. By practicing Stoic detachment, you can observe these distortions from a distance, as if watching a storm pass by. This helps you maintain clarity and avoid unnecessary conflict. Strengthening your trust in reality. One of the gaslighter's aims in rewriting the past is to make you doubt your sense of truth. Stoicism provides a remedy by grounding you in objective reality. It encourages you to ask critical questions. What do I know to be true based on evidence? Is this accusation or distortion aligned with reason? Is this person's narrative worth entertaining if it contradicts my principles? The Stoics remind us that our reality doesn't need validation from external sources. As Marcus Aurelius said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Your ability to trust your inner sense of truth protects you from manipulation. How to maintain peace when the past is challenged. Let go of the need to convince others. Stoics caution against entangling yourself in arguments over things you can't control. Trying to prove your truth to someone committed to manipulation is fruitless. Instead, focus on your principles and what you know to be right. Prioritize virtue over validation in Stoicism. Your character, rooted in virtue, is what defines you, not the approval of others. Even if someone attempts to discredit you or your version of the past, your integrity remains intact as long as you stay aligned with your values. Use their distortions as a learning opportunity. The Stoics viewed adversity as an opportunity for growth. Gaslighting, though harmful, provides a unique chance to strengthen your resilience. Each encounter challenges you to stay centered in your truth and reject the chaos of external distortions. When someone rewrites the past, it can feel deeply disorienting, but Stoicism teaches us to let go of what we cannot control and instead focus on what is within our power, our thoughts, our perspective, and our commitment to reason. The past is fixed, no matter how others may attempt to change it. Your response to these manipulations is what determines your strength. By practicing Stoic detachment, leaning on reason, and trusting in your principles, you can remain firm even when faced with distorted narratives. The next time someone tries to rewrite your reality, remember this: your truth, rooted in virtue and reason, is unshakable. Sign number 3. You feel unnecessarily guilty. Unnecessary guilt arises when someone makes you feel responsible for things that are beyond your control or for events you didn't cause. Gaslighters thrive on this manipulation, creating a false narrative where you are the one to blame for problems or conflicts. This type of guilt is destructive, not because it helps you grow, but because it keeps you trapped, constantly apologizing and doubting yourself. From a Stoic perspective, unnecessary guilt distracts you from your ultimate goal: living a life of virtue and reason. How does Stoicism view guilt? In Stoicism, guilt has a place, but only when it's tied to actions that violate your principles or virtues. Guilt, when appropriate, signals that you've acted against your better judgment and need to course correct. However, guilt becomes unnecessary when it stems from factors outside your control or from manipulative tactics. Epictetus makes a key distinction. Remember, it is not he who gives abuse or blows, who affronts, but the view we take of these things as insulting. You decide whether to carry guilt or reject it when it doesn't serve you. How gaslighting amplifies guilt. A gaslighter often twists situations to shift blame onto you. For example, if you express feelings, they accuse you of being too emotional or causing a scene. If they make a mistake, they frame it as your fault for not being supportive or understanding. If there's a disagreement, you're made to feel guilty for misunderstanding them or starting the argument. These tactics create an emotional burden, making you carry guilt that doesn't belong to you. Stoicism provides tools to help you identify and reject this manipulation. The Stoic approach to guilt and responsibility. Understand the dichotomy of control. Epictetus famously said, "Some things are up to us, and some things are not." Guilt belongs only to things that are truly within your control. Your actions, your words, and your intentions. If you've acted with integrity and reason, unnecessary guilt has no place. If a gaslighter blames you for something outside your control, remind yourself their feelings, reactions, and distortions are not your responsibility. Focus on your intentions, not outcomes. Stoicism teaches that virtue lies in intent, not in the outcomes of your actions. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, no one can prevent you from being honest or straightforward. If your intentions were pure and aligned with reason, there is no need to carry guilt for how others interpret or twist your actions. Examine the evidence. When you feel guilty, pause and ask yourself, what evidence is there that I truly did something wrong? Gaslighters rely on emotional manipulation, not facts. Did you violate a principle of virtue, such as justice or honesty? Or is this guilt arising from their attempt to control your feelings? Clarity through self-reflection helps you discern between genuine accountability and manipulative guilt. Detach from external opinions. Gaslighters often frame your worth as dependent on their approval. Stoicism frees you from this dependency by shifting your focus inward. If someone blames you unfairly, it reflects their character, not yours. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. Focus on embodying virtue, regardless of external judgment. The role of integrity in dispelling guilt. Integrity is a core Stoic principle. Living with integrity means aligning your actions with your values. Justice, honesty, courage, and wisdom. If you've acted unjustly, guilt is appropriate and can guide you back to the right path. If your actions align with integrity and you still feel guilty, this guilt is imposed, not earned. When faced with accusations, reflect on this. Have I stayed true to my principles? If the answer is yes, there's no need to carry the emotional weight of blame. Strategies to reject unnecessary guilt using Stoic wisdom. Practice rational reflection. When guilt arises, take time to reflect calmly. Ask yourself, what did I do in this situation? Did I act with reason, justice, and honesty? Is this guilt serving a purpose, or is it being imposed by someone else? Define what is yours to carry. The Stoics emphasize drawing clear boundaries between what belongs to you and what belongs to others. Gaslighters often try to offload their emotional baggage onto you. Recognize that their perceptions and feelings are theirs to own, not yours to manage. Find strength in your principles. Marcus Aurelius wrote, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. When your actions align with these guidelines, you have nothing to regret. Use your principles as a shield against manipulative guilt. Let go of the desire to please others. Gaslighters often exploit your desire to maintain peace or approval. Stoicism teaches that you cannot control others' opinions, nor should you try. Focus instead on living a virtuous life and let others' perceptions fall where they may, transforming guilt into growth. While unnecessary guilt should be rejected, constructive guilt has a role in Stoicism. It's an opportunity for self-improvement. If your reflection reveals that you've acted against virtue, use that realization as a chance to grow. But if your guilt arises from manipulation, recognize it for what it is, an emotional tool used to control you. Instead of carrying it, learn from the experience and strengthen your commitment to reason and self-awareness. Unnecessary guilt is a heavy burden, but Stoicism gives you the tools to reject it. By focusing on what you can control, aligning your actions with virtue, and detaching from external opinions, you can free yourself from manipulative blame. The next time someone tries to make you feel at fault unjustly, pause and ask yourself, is this guilt truly mine to carry? If it isn't, let it go and move forward with clarity, reason, and strength. Sign number 4. They minimize your feelings. Hearing statements like "you're overreacting," "you're too sensitive," or "it's not a big deal" can feel invalidating. This tactic is often used by gaslighters to dismiss your emotions and make you question whether your feelings are justified. Minimizing feelings is a subtle form of manipulation that can lead to emotional confusion and self-doubt. The goal is to make you suppress your emotions, feel inferior, and give up your right to express how you truly feel. How Stoicism views feelings and emotional dismissal. The Stoics didn't reject emotions altogether. Instead, they taught us to examine and manage them through reason. Feelings are natural. They signal your responses to events, but they are not always an accurate reflection of reality. When others minimize your emotions, they attempt to disrupt this process, making you doubt the validity of your experience. Stoicism teaches us to take control of our inner state and not rely on external validation. Seneca reminds us, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. This isn't to say emotions should be suppressed or ignored. Stoicism values emotional resilience, which involves acknowledging your feelings, understanding them, and ensuring they don't rule your thoughts or actions. The impact of having your feelings dismissed. When someone constantly minimizes your feelings, it creates several harmful effects. Erosion of self-worth. You begin to question whether your emotions are valid or meaningful. Emotional suppression. Over time, you might stop expressing your feelings altogether to avoid criticism or dismissal. Conflict between emotion and reason. Gaslighting can make you feel that your emotions are always wrong, driving a wedge between how you feel and what you think. The Stoics remind us that this conflict can be reconciled by focusing on reason as the guide for managing emotions. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Even when someone dismisses your feelings, you retain the power to interpret and respond to that dismissal." How to respond to emotional dismissal with Stoic principles. Acknowledge your feelings without overattachment. Stoicism doesn't demand that you suppress your emotions, but asks that you neither ignore nor overindulge them. When someone says you're overreacting, reflect on the situation calmly. Is your emotional response proportionate to the event? If not, what external pressure might be amplifying your feelings? Marcus Aurelius advises us to remind ourselves, "Today I escaped anxiety," or "No, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside." Understanding your own emotions helps you stop seeking validation from those who minimize them. Separate your feelings from their judgment. When someone dismisses your emotions, it can be tempting to internalize their judgment. But Epictetus reminds us to draw a clear boundary between what belongs to us and what belongs to others. Your feelings are yours. They arise from your perceptions and experiences. Their opinions about your feelings belong to them. They are not within your control. By detaching from their perspective, you protect your inner peace and your sense of self-worth. Evaluate whether the criticism has merit. The Stoics encourage self-reflection and humility. When someone minimizes your feelings, consider their feedback objectively. Are they pointing out something you've overlooked? Or are they dismissing your emotions as a means of controlling or silencing you? If their words have merit, use that insight to grow. If not, disregard them without letting your emotions escalate. Seneca wrote, "No man can have a peaceful life who thinks too much about lengthening it, nor can he be happy who is over-anxious about happiness." The same principle applies to emotional validation. Don't rely on others for peace when you can create it within. Practices to build resilience against emotional dismissal. Journal for emotional clarity. Marcus Aurelius kept a journal to reflect on his thoughts and feelings. Journaling can help you untangle complex emotions, understand their root causes, and reinforce your inner truth. Writing down how you feel and why can validate your emotions without needing external approval. Develop emotional discipline. The Stoics teach us to acknowledge emotions but not let them dominate our actions. When someone minimizes your feelings, recognize the hurt without letting it dictate your response. Ask yourself, does reacting emotionally to their dismissal align with my values and principles? Use emotional discipline to choose a reasoned response instead of reacting impulsively. Focus on virtue over validation. Emotional dismissal often leaves us craving validation. The Stoics remind us that true peace comes from living according to virtue, not seeking approval. Marcus Aurelius stated, "Just that you do the right thing. The rest doesn't matter." If expressing your feelings is virtuous, truthful, just, and respectful, then it doesn't matter how others respond. Engage in honest communication. Sometimes people dismiss emotions because they misunderstand or feel uncomfortable addressing them. A Stoic approach is to engage calmly, using reason to articulate your feelings. Instead of arguing or becoming defensive, say something like, "I hear what you're saying, but my feelings are important to me. Let me explain why this matters." Practicing clear, composed communication aligns with Stoic principles of wisdom and courage. Finding strength when others minimize your feelings. The core of Stoicism is self-reliance. When others invalidate your feelings, it's an opportunity to strengthen your inner sense of truth. Remind yourself, feelings are natural but fleeting. They should be acknowledged and understood, not suppressed or indulged. The power of interpretation lies with you, not with those who attempt to dismiss you. Your emotional resilience is built on reason and virtue, not on external opinions. Seneca reminds us that a wise man is neither uplifted by prosperity nor cast down by adversity. The same applies to how others treat your emotions. If they dismiss you, don't let that shake your confidence. If they validate you, don't let it define your worth. When someone minimizes your feelings, they may be attempting to control or dismiss you. But Stoicism teaches you to stay grounded in reason and virtue. By acknowledging your emotions without attaching your self-worth to them, you build a solid foundation of inner strength. Your feelings are valid because they are yours. While others may choose to dismiss or belittle them, the Stoics remind us to look inward for validation and peace. Let their opinions pass like clouds. They may shadow you briefly, but they do not control your inner light. Sign number 5. Your reality feels unstable. When dealing with gaslighting, your sense of stability can feel like it's unraveling. You begin doubting your memories, perceptions, and even your capacity to understand events clearly. Statements like "that never happened" or "you're imagining things" push you into a state of confusion, making you second-guess everything you thought you knew. This intentional disruption is a hallmark of manipulation. It shakes the foundation of your confidence and makes you dependent on the gaslighter's version of reality. The result? Emotional and mental disorientation. How Stoicism helps in moments of uncertainty. Stoicism offers a clear antidote to this instability, grounding yourself in rational thought and the things within your control. Epictetus teaches, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them." While gaslighters attempt to distort reality, you have the power to interpret events with clarity and reason. Stoicism doesn't deny the confusion caused by external forces. Instead, it encourages us to differentiate between what's external and uncontrollable versus what lies within. The judgments and perceptions you choose to accept. By holding steadfast to logic and virtue, you can reclaim your stability even in the face of deliberate attempts to unbalance you. How gaslighting undermines reality. Gaslighters use specific tactics to distort reality. Denial of observable facts. They refute events that you clearly witnessed or experienced. Subtle contradictions. Their narrative changes, often in contradictory ways, leaving you unsure of the truth. Emotional manipulation. They amplify your emotions to make you feel irrational, further unanchoring your sense of self. These tactics are designed to draw your focus outward, to the gaslighter's story, rather than inward, where Stoicism advises you to anchor your understanding. Stoic practices to regain stability in uncertain times. Rely on rational thinking. One of the Stoic pillars is using reason to guide your understanding. When faced with conflicting narratives, Ask yourself, what are the observable facts? What evidence do I have? What aligns with logic and reason? Marcus Aurelius emphasized the value of reason as a stabilizer. If something seems difficult, do not blame others. Rather, seek within yourself for the power to understand or endure. Even when external forces challenge your reality, your ability to think logically cannot be taken from you. Practice mental distancing. Stoicism teaches a practice called dichotomy of control, separating what is within your influence from what isn't. You cannot control whether someone denies reality or rewrites the past. What you can control is how you respond to these distortions. Mental distancing allows you to step back and evaluate the situation without emotional overwhelm. Epictetus reminds us, circumstances don't make the man. They only reveal him to himself. Use this challenge to practice self-mastery, focusing on your internal clarity. Anchor yourself in core principles. Stoic philosophy places a strong emphasis on living according to virtue. When your reality feels unstable, ground yourself in principles like wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Ask yourself, am I acting justly in this situation? Am I maintaining my composure in the face of challenges? Am I relying on reason rather than emotions to navigate this confusion? Virtue acts as an internal compass that keeps you steady, even when external events feel chaotic. Detach from external validation. A significant source of instability comes from relying on others to affirm your reality. Gaslighters exploit this dependency to assert control. Stoicism teaches the opposite. Your reality doesn't need external validation. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not dream of having things you do not have. Rather, reflect on the best of those you do." Similarly, when your sense of reality is tested, focus on what you know to be true rather than what others try to impose. Reframing instability as an opportunity for growth. The Stoics believe that challenges, even ones as difficult as gaslighting, provide opportunities to practice resilience. Seneca observed, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." When your reality feels unstable, view it as a chance to strengthen your grasp on reason. Use the situation as practice for detachment, reflection, and self-awareness. Recognize that moments of instability test your ability to find clarity amidst chaos. Gaslighting may aim to disorient you, but Stoicism reframes this as a moment to test and reinforce your inner fortitude. Practical exercises to stay grounded. Daily reflection. Like Marcus Aurelius, dedicate time each day to reflect on events and clarify your perceptions. Write down what happened, how you felt, and what aligns with reason. This practice strengthens your understanding of reality, making it harder for manipulative tactics to take hold. Affirm your inner truth. Repeat a Stoic affirmation during moments of doubt. For instance, "I will not allow external confusion to dictate my inner peace." This recenters your focus and affirms that your stability comes from within. Seek clarity through nature. The Stoics often turn to nature for grounding. Observe something consistent in nature: a sunrise, the flowing of water, the changing of seasons. Let this remind you that while external forces may feel unstable, the natural order persists, and so can your inner stability. When your reality feels unstable, it's tempting to seek stability in the very people or situations causing the confusion. Stoicism encourages you to do the opposite. Turn inward and find stability in your own reason, clarity, and virtue. Gaslighting's goal is to unbalance you, but Stoic philosophy provides you with the tools to reclaim your steadiness. Rely on logic, separate yourself from external chaos, and root yourself in the unshakable foundation of your principles. Remember Marcus Aurelius' wisdom: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The instability you face is not a wall. It's a path to a stronger, clearer sense of self. Sign number 6. You're isolated from support. One of the most insidious techniques of manipulation is isolating you from your support system. Gaslighters may attempt to distance you from your family, friends, or other key people in your life, telling you that they don't understand, that they are against you, or even that they are part of the problem. The goal is to make you feel alone, disconnected, and unable to trust anyone but the manipulator. This isolation can leave you feeling vulnerable and stripped of the emotional resources that a strong support network provides. The idea is to foster dependence, undermining your sense of reality and identity by severing the connections that might offer clarity. Stoicism and the importance of relationships. While Stoicism is often associated with self-reliance and individual responsibility, The Stoics did not advocate for complete emotional isolation. They acknowledged that meaningful connections and virtuous relationships are vital to personal growth and well-being. Epictetus taught that we were born for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of the upper and lower teeth. In other words, humans are social beings by nature, and it is through healthy relationships that we can learn, grow, and maintain our inner balance. At the same time, Stoicism teaches us not to rely excessively on external relationships for our happiness or self-worth. True independence comes from within, our thoughts, attitudes, and personal virtue. But healthy support networks remain essential. When gaslighters attempt to isolate you, they disrupt your natural connection to others, leaving you more susceptible to manipulation. However, Stoicism reminds us that our inner peace does not have to depend on being constantly surrounded by people. Still, the importance of wise and trustworthy companions who offer guidance and insight should never be underestimated. How isolation affects you emotionally and mentally. Being isolated from support can have numerous emotional and psychological effects. Feelings of confusion. Without other perspectives, the manipulation can become harder to recognize. You start to wonder if the gaslighter's versions of events might actually be true. Self-doubt. When alone, it's easy to second-guess your experiences. You may begin to question whether you're interpreting reality correctly. Increased vulnerability. In isolation, your mental resilience weakens, and you're more likely to cling to the approval of the manipulator for validation. Stoicism helps protect us from these negative effects by teaching us to internalize our sense of value and clarity. The Stoic approach doesn't promote becoming entirely indifferent to the well-being of others, but instead encourages emotional resilience through self-sufficiency. By focusing on inner virtue, you can withstand external pressures, such as isolation, without losing your sense of self. Stoic practices to counter isolation. Find strength within yourself. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." When faced with isolation, you don't need to wait for someone to give you clarity. You can become the master of your own mind. Acknowledge that you have the ability to cultivate resilience in solitude by strengthening your inner qualities. Wisdom. Rely on reason and critical thinking to challenge the manipulator's narrative. Courage. Use the courage to acknowledge that you have been isolated and to resist the manipulation. Self-control. Manage emotional triggers and choose to stay focused on truth and rational thinking. In Stoicism, inner stability does not rely on the approval or presence of others. It comes from your understanding of what you can control your mind versus what you cannot external actions. Even in isolation, you retain agency over your thoughts. Seek guidance from trusted individuals. Even though Stoicism emphasizes self-reliance, it also recognizes the value of wise counsel. When facing manipulation or isolation, seek the wisdom of someone you trust, someone who values virtue and truth. The Stoics often turn to their friends, mentors, or philosophers for guidance. Marcus Aurelius, for instance, sought the counsel of his friend and mentor, Sextus of Chaeronea. If you have been isolated from friends or family by a manipulator, reach out to those who have consistently supported you and who can give you an objective perspective. Sometimes having another person reflect back your experiences can help clarify the truth and reveal the manipulator's tactics. Associate with people who are wise and seek their advice. In the world of Stoicism, wise companions provide valuable perspectives, grounded in virtue and rationality. They can help you see through manipulation, regain your mental clarity, and prevent emotional descent into doubt and confusion. Value external relationships without becoming dependent. The Stoics teach that while relationships are valuable, they shouldn't define your internal state. Do not become emotionally dependent on the validation or approval of others. Rather, develop your inner resources so that when relationships are tested, whether by manipulation or distance, you can still stand firm. A healthy balance lies in sharing genuine emotional connections without over-relying on them. As Epictetus wrote, "What is it that you have in your mind to guide your steps? Let reason, wisdom, and self-reflection guide your emotional needs, allowing others to complement, rather than determine, your internal peace." Strengthen emotional detachment. Emotional detachment isn't about cutting yourself off from emotions, but gaining control over your responses. Stoics acknowledge that while it's natural to be emotionally affected by situations, those emotions should not dominate your thoughts. Practicing detachment helps when external influences push for emotional dependency. It gives you clarity in relationships, as you do not rely on anyone else for validation of your truth. When isolation becomes an opportunity for self-growth, while isolation from support can be harmful, Stoicism teaches that even in situations of deprivation, there is room for growth. Challenges are opportunities to strengthen your inner character. If you are in a phase where external support feels distant or manipulated, you can focus on improving virtues like self-reflection. Use this time to meditate on what you can control and the things that truly matter. Self-sufficiency. Understand that you are not helpless. True independence comes from an inward strength grounded in reason and virtue, not just in others' approval. Resilience. Cultivate an inner fortress that is unaffected by the ups and downs of external relationships, staying connected to your core beliefs. Ultimately, the Stoics suggest that there are no external circumstances that can completely diminish your sense of stability. Even in isolation, there's always a way to return to internal equilibrium. Stoicism teaches that no matter the external environment, if you remain virtuous and grounded in wisdom, the manipulation of your emotional state can be mitigated. When isolation is used as a tool for manipulation, it creates a sense of confusion and vulnerability. Gaslighters push you away from the people who would validate your experiences and make you question your reality. Yet, in the face of such isolation, Stoicism provides you with the tools to remain grounded and resilient. By learning to manage your internal state, seeking wise counsel when necessary, and cultivating self-sufficiency, you can navigate isolation with strength and clarity. Remember the words of Marcus Aurelius: "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." Even when you're isolated from external support, maintain the strength of your inner truth, guided by reason, virtue, and the wisdom of those who uplift you. Sign number 7. You over-apologize. Do you constantly find yourself saying "I'm sorry" for things that aren't your fault? Or perhaps for simply existing in a way that may inconvenience others? This tendency to over-apologize is often a signal of insecurity or an unconscious attempt to placate others, even at the expense of your own dignity and self-respect. People who are being gaslit often fall into this pattern because they are made to feel guilty for situations they didn't cause, creating a sense of self-doubt that leads to excessive apology. When you're manipulated into feeling at fault or overly responsible for others' emotions and behaviors, it becomes easy to give away your personal power in an attempt to keep the peace. Stoicism can guide you to break this cycle by understanding that apologies should not be made out of fear, but only when truly necessary and deserved. Why over-apologizing is a problem. Over-apologizing can diminish your self-esteem and sense of personal boundaries. It signals to others, especially manipulative ones, that you don't stand firm in your own truth and values. When you apologize too often for things you're not responsible for, it inadvertently encourages others to impose blame on you. Over time, this can cause you to feel like you always need to apologize to be loved or accepted. Additionally, over-apologizing can perpetuate feelings of guilt that don't belong to you. Rather than taking responsibility for your actions and acknowledging areas where genuine apologies are due, you start internalizing responsibility for everything that goes wrong, even if it's not your fault. This is especially problematic if someone is trying to shift blame onto you. Gaslighters thrive in these kinds of environments. The Stoic view on apologies. In Stoicism, there is no room for constant apologies for the sake of appeasing others, nor for placing the blame where it doesn't belong. The Stoics believe that our behavior should be driven by virtue and justice, not fear or insecurity. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." According to this principle, Stoicism teaches us to be accountable for our actions but also reminds us not to take on guilt for things that are not within our control. If your actions align with virtue and reason, then you have nothing to apologize for. Moreover, Stoicism advocates for moral clarity and integrity. The core belief is that we should avoid excessive self-criticism or making amends when no wrong has been committed. You are responsible for your actions, not for other people's reactions, feelings, or interpretations of your behavior. Over-apologizing is a symptom of external validation. At the root of over-apologizing is often the desire for validation from others. In Stoicism, we are taught to distance our emotional well-being from the opinions and judgments of others. Seneca wrote, "What is it that will give you peace? Only that which is yours, and only what belongs to you." The Stoic perspective helps to understand that approval from others, especially on the level of unnecessary apologies, should not be the driving force behind your actions. In moments where you feel compelled to apologize excessively, it may be an indication that you're subconsciously seeking external validation to ease your self-doubt. Instead of relying on apologies to gain approval or make others feel comfortable, Stoicism asks you to stand firm in your own judgment, actions, and intentions. Through virtue and self-awareness, you can cultivate an inner calm that doesn't rely on the fluctuating perceptions of others. The role of apology in Stoicism. In Stoicism, the role of an apology is reserved for situations where you've wronged others or acted in a manner inconsistent with your values. An apology should not be issued out of guilt or fear of conflict, but rather out of an authentic recognition of personal failings or errors. For instance, Marcus Aurelius expressed the importance of self-awareness when he wrote, "When you have done something wrong, admit it and correct it. Do not deny it and make excuses. When we misstep, it's essential to acknowledge it clearly." However, this doesn't extend to apologizing excessively or to things we aren't responsible for. When it is appropriate to apologize, doing so means acknowledging a specific misjudgment with the intent to make amends, not apologizing over and over as a reaction to others' perceptions. Stoic practices to curb over apologizing. Identify your personal boundaries. Understanding what actions genuinely require an apology is key. Take time to reflect on your core principles and evaluate situations accordingly. Have I violated my own values or the values of others? Did I make a mistake that harmed someone else or my integrity? If the answer is no, there's no need to apologize. Standing by your values, even when it's uncomfortable, is a fundamental part of living as a Stoic. Cultivate self-awareness. Reflection plays a key role in curbing over apologizing. Develop a habit of regular self-reflection, ideally through journaling, meditation, or introspection. Before apologizing, pause and consider whether it is truly necessary. Ask yourself, why am I apologizing? Is this about me needing approval, or is this about offering a sincere acknowledgement of a wrong? Practice self-compassion, being gentle with yourself and recognizing that everyone makes mistakes. Stoicism does not demand perfection, only progress is essential. Over-apologizing is often a reflection of lack of self-acceptance. Remind yourself that imperfection is natural. You don't need to apologize for existing or for the small missteps that are part of living a full and engaged life. Acknowledge, adjust, and move forward with equanimity. Reframe apology as accountability. Instead of immediately resorting to an apology, try reframing the situation as one where you are holding yourself accountable. Focus on actions and ownership. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry for being late," you could say, "I acknowledge that my lateness impacted the situation, and I will strive to be more punctual." Stoicism emphasizes owning your actions with integrity rather than casting yourself into a position of subservience through excessive apology. Ultimately, Stoicism teaches that true responsibility lies in controlling what is within your power, your own actions. You are not responsible for how others perceive you, nor for things outside of your control. If your actions align with virtue, and you haven't intentionally wronged anyone, there is no need to apologize excessively. By adopting a Stoic mindset, you free yourself from the trap of over-apologizing, acknowledging only those moments where genuine responsibility and correction are needed. Doing so doesn't just protect your mental well-being, it fosters a deep sense of self-respect and emotional strength. As Marcus Aurelius wisely noted, to be calm is the highest achievement of the self. When we stand firm in our truth, without resorting to unnecessary apologies, we achieve a level of peace and resilience that keeps us grounded in reason and virtue. Sign number 8. They use confusing language or contradictions. One of the most subtle and effective strategies that gaslighters use is to fill their conversations with contradictions or deliberately confusing language. The goal of this technique is not to communicate, but to create uncertainty in your mind, making you doubt your perception and memory. By offering inconsistent statements or conflicting narratives, they undermine your confidence in your own reality, leaving you second-guessing everything they say. The impact of such confusion can cause you to question what you believe to be true, leading to a breakdown of self-trust. A person may tell you one thing in one conversation, only to contradict it in the next, making it increasingly difficult to know what to believe. This strategy is particularly dangerous because it is difficult to pinpoint, making it harder for you to call out the behavior. If you express discomfort about these contradictions, you may be blamed for being overly sensitive, further leaving you isolated. The Stoic commitment to clarity and truth. Stoicism, at its core, champions clarity of thought, intentional language, and truthfulness in all things. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic emperor, emphasized that, if it's not right, do not do it. If it's not true, do not say it. In Stoicism, language is seen as a tool for expressing truth, not for manipulation. This perspective leads us to a fundamental Stoic principle. When interacting with others, always aim for truth, integrity, and consistency in speech. The Stoic goal is to act in harmony with nature and to express oneself with clarity and coherence. If an argument is based on contradiction, it cannot serve the higher purpose of guiding us toward wisdom. Clarity is an indicator of virtue. It is when our communication reflects our true beliefs and rational understanding. Confusing language or deliberate contradiction disturbs this clarity. The Stoic would reject such confusion, realizing that any behavior that clouds reality with falsehoods detracts from peace of mind. The ability to think clearly, separate from outside noise, is essential to living a virtuous life. Stoics assert that those who speak in contradictions do not understand the truth. They manipulate or deceive, ultimately leading to inner chaos for those who listen to them. The psychological effect of confusion. When you are exposed to confusing language and contradictions, there are psychological effects at play. Gaslighters aim to make you feel as if you're the problem. If your understanding of events doesn't align with what they're saying, you may be made to feel like you're crazy or irrational. Over time, this inconsistency erodes your own sense of what is real. It causes you to internalize doubt and disbelief, impacting your ability to trust your memory and perception. You may find yourself apologizing or adjusting your views constantly, trying to make sense of what seems like a moving target of reality. This tactic is particularly insidious because it doesn't rely on overt aggression or direct manipulation. Rather, it plants a seed of doubt by means of subtle contradiction, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye but cumulatively overwhelming over time. This keeps you in a constant state of uncertainty. Stoicism counters this psychological effect by reinforcing the importance of inner certainty. The Stoics held that if we are aligned with reason and virtue, we can be confident in our reality, even when others try to shake it. The clarity that Stoicism cultivates allows you to discern truth from contradiction. Stoic principles to counter manipulation. To avoid falling prey to the chaos of confusing language, Stoics teach several methods that can help keep us grounded in our understanding of truth. The practice of critical thinking. When confronted with confusion or contradictions, pause and critically evaluate what is being said. Don't take things at face value. Reflect on what seems logical and consistent, and compare the statements against your own principles and values. This intellectual rigor is essential in distinguishing between truth and deceit. As Epictetus taught, it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them. You are in control of how you interpret words and interactions. Critical thinking prevents you from being swayed by persuasive but ultimately confusing speech. Focus on inner clarity. Stoicism is all about developing inner clarity through self-discipline, reflection, and virtue. By cultivating inner clarity, you remove the possibility of being swayed by external confusion. Through meditation, journaling, and regular self-reflection, practice returning to the fundamentals of what you know to be true. Meditative practices, such as focusing on the impermanence of external circumstances and understanding that our own thoughts shape our reality, can build emotional resilience against manipulation. These techniques are powerful tools to neutralize the effects of external confusion. Stoic meditation allows us to maintain clarity amid complexity. Use the dichotomy of control. The dichotomy of control is a Stoic concept that tells us that we can only control our responses and actions, not the behavior of others. When gaslighters attempt to manipulate through confusing language, remember that you cannot control their contradictions or confusion. However, you have full control over your own responses. Refuse to engage in circular conversations. Stay grounded in your own sense of right and wrong, avoiding the trap of confusion. If someone tries to undermine you with contradictory statements, calmly detach and don't allow their speech to dictate your state of mind. Practice remaining peaceful and composed regardless of what is being said. Seek external validation from wise counsel. When contradictions leave you uncertain, Seek advice from trusted individuals whose opinions are grounded in virtue and wisdom. A Stoic does not have to navigate a difficult situation alone. Finding an impartial and wise voice to seek clarity can be tremendously beneficial. As Marcus Aurelius stated, be tolerant with others and strict with yourself. Similarly, use your own discipline to seek truth and temperance in yourself, but allow trusted mentors to offer guidance when the situation grows too confusing. Moving past the contradictions. To navigate through the chaos caused by contradictions, remember that Stoicism is built on the concept of eudaimonia, or living in accordance with virtue and wisdom. Gaslighters confuse language to create inner turmoil and instability. Your commitment to the Stoic practice of truth and clarity provides you with the foundation to remain unshaken. Furthermore, while Stoics teach that it is critical to stay true to our own principles and reason, they also recognize that not everyone can be reasoned with. Some individuals will continue to speak in contradictions for the purpose of manipulation. When this is the case, the Stoic response is to remain firm, disengage, and focus on what is within your control: your thoughts, your actions, and your alignment with virtue. As Epictetus said, first learn the meaning of what you say and then speak. In other words, understand the truth for yourself before engaging with others, especially when their words are unclear or contradictory. Gaslighters rely on confusing language and contradictions to break down your confidence in your own perception of reality. This tactic can create confusion, uncertainty, and self-doubt. Stoicism provides the tools to combat this kind of manipulation by promoting clarity of thought, self-awareness, and the importance of logical reasoning. By practicing critical thinking, aligning yourself with truth, and rejecting irrational statements, you can shield yourself from the turmoil caused by confusing language. Remember that clarity of mind, remaining steadfast in your understanding of truth, serves as an anchor in a storm of contradictions. As Stoic philosophers encourage, by mastering your inner state and guarding your clarity, you not only protect your mental peace, but you also find strength in the unwavering pursuit of truth. Stand firm in your convictions and don't let anyone destabilize your reality through the use of contradictions or manipulative speech. Sign number 9. You feel like you're losing yourself. One of the most insidious impacts of gaslighting is that it can make you feel as if you're losing yourself. Over time, the constant manipulation, contradictions, and efforts to make you doubt your perception of reality can distort your self-image. When you're gaslit, it's like being pulled in different directions. Your sense of self is no longer rooted in your inner values, but in what others want or expect from you. You start questioning everything that made you feel whole: the way you see the world, your decisions, your feelings. Gaslighters intentionally undermine your reality by making you feel uncertain of your thoughts and choices. As this process continues, you may feel increasingly detached from the person you once were. This feeling of losing yourself arises when you're no longer able to trust your own judgment or identify with your own principles, leaving you adrift. Why? Gaslighting targets your sense of identity. At its core, gaslighting is a strategy to destabilize the victim's sense of identity and perception. A key part of a gaslighter's manipulation is to consistently warp your sense of reality, reinterpreting events, distorting memories, and planting seeds of doubt. By eroding your confidence and making you second-guess your experiences, they slowly transform your sense of self into something uncertain and fractured. You may start feeling that you're a shadow of your former self, filled with self-doubt, unsure of where your values and desires end and where the manipulator's intentions begin. The result is a feeling of powerlessness over your own existence. What was once clear becomes a blur of conflicting thoughts, and the ability to make decisions rooted in your authentic self can become clouded. The Stoic response to the loss of self. In Stoicism, the ideal is to live according to our true nature and virtues, regardless of the actions of others or external events. The Stoics teach us that our sense of identity and worth should never depend on the validation of others, but rather on the values we cultivate within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the cornerstone of Stoic self-reliance. The Stoics advocate for living authentically, aligned with virtue, even when faced with challenges. When your self-identity is being eroded through gaslighting or any other form of manipulation, you must anchor your understanding of who you are in principles that are fixed, unchanging, and untainted by external influences. These are your virtues, the foundation on which you can build a resilient sense of self. Reconnecting with your core principles. To fight the feeling of losing yourself, Stoicism asks us to define our identity by our virtues and rational thinking, not by the opinions or manipulations of others. When we begin to feel disconnected, it's a sign that we need to return to the principles that guide our lives: truth, justice, courage, and wisdom. These core virtues are always within our control and are unaffected by the actions of others. If you're experiencing self-doubt or confusion about who you are, Stoic reflection can help clarify your identity. Reflecting on questions like, what do I value deeply? And how do I want to live my life according to virtue? Brings focus to your authentic self. Your actions, rooted in virtue, define who you are. When you're clear about your values and live by them, external influences become less relevant. Practices to ground yourself and reclaim your identity. Regular self-reflection. One of the key practices in Stoicism is daily self-reflection. This allows you to regularly check in with yourself and measure how well your actions align with your core principles. By reflecting daily, you keep yourself grounded in your values, and you're less likely to fall prey to the influence of others. To deepen this practice, consider journaling about your thoughts, reactions, and behaviors. Each day, ask yourself what you've done that reflects your values and where you might have been swayed by external pressure. This honesty helps you reclaim the strong sense of self that Stoicism promotes. Understanding the dichotomy of control. A key Stoic practice that helps combat the feeling of losing yourself is understanding the dichotomy of control. This idea, central to Stoicism, states that we cannot control the actions of others, but we can control how we respond to those actions. By focusing on what is within your control, your choices, your reactions, your virtues, you stay anchored in your authentic self. If you're feeling lost or overwhelmed by what's happening around you, remember, you are not responsible for the behavior of others. You are only responsible for your own. Reclaim the agency that comes from making decisions in alignment with your values, no matter what others may say or do. Cultivating resilience through virtue. Virtue is the core of Stoic practice. Marcus Aurelius spoke about cultivating inner strength. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts when your mind is focused on virtuous actions, such as wisdom, courage, and justice. Your thoughts naturally align with the identity you wish to embody. By constantly practicing virtues, you ground yourself in something far deeper than mere external circumstances. Start by considering which virtues are most important to you. Then take concrete steps each day to live in accordance with those principles. By acting in alignment with your virtues, no manipulation or gaslighting can cause you to lose the essence of who you truly are. Why external validation is not your source of identity. In Stoic philosophy, external validation should never define who you are or your worth. The key to regaining your identity when feeling lost is to return to the wisdom of your internal compass. Gaslighting thrives on making you believe that your value depends on external approval or consensus, but true peace comes from within. As Epictetus advised, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Reclaiming your identity involves understanding that your thoughts and responses are where your power lies. By making decisions aligned with reason and virtue, you reinforce your true self, regardless of outside influences. Your value does not diminish because someone tries to undermine it. It remains constant as long as you honor the principles that guide your life. Recognizing your inner strength. Stoicism teaches that life is inherently unpredictable, and at times, others may try to bend us with their words, opinions, or manipulations. But the Stoic approach encourages us to continuously reconnect with our inner nature, drawing strength from our values. When you feel like you're losing yourself to the whims of others, remember that your core virtues can always guide you back to yourself. Acknowledge the emotional turmoil that gaslighting can bring, but use it as an opportunity to strengthen your Stoic resolve. Every time you choose to trust your own judgment over others' distortions, you build resilience and reaffirm your identity. Your values, not external pressures, define you. By practicing the wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance central to Stoic philosophy, you reconnect with your authentic self and gain control over your inner world. The feeling of losing yourself in the midst of gaslighting is a painful yet common experience. However, Stoicism offers a way out by teaching us that our true identity resides in our virtues, not in the fluctuating opinions of others. Through daily reflection, critical thinking, and practicing virtue, we can reclaim the integrity of our selfhood. Remember that the only identity you need is the one that aligns with truth and virtue, and when you adhere to those, you will never lose yourself. As Marcus Aurelius beautifully stated, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. When you regain control over your thoughts, which should always be directed toward virtue and wisdom, you reclaim your identity from external manipulation. You can face any challenge in life, anchored in the unshakable foundation of your true self. Sign number 10. You're always trying to prove yourself. One of the most exhausting and subtle signs of gaslighting is when you constantly feel like you need to prove yourself. Whether it's defending your actions, explaining your decisions, or justifying your worth, a gaslighter will often leave you in a perpetual state of self-doubt. They will make you feel as if you have to explain yourself in every situation, doubting your motives and creating a sense of guilt for simply being who you are. This feeling is rooted in their manipulation of your reality. Gaslighters want you to always seek their approval. They want to keep you on the defensive, where you're continually questioning yourself to prove your value or defend your actions. Over time, this causes mental exhaustion as you invest more energy in convincing others of your truth than in simply living it. By positioning you in a constant state of defense, the manipulator ensures you feel insecure and dependent on them for validation. This creates a vicious cycle of self-doubt, internal conflict, and unnecessary anxiety. The Stoic approach: embrace indifference to external approval. In Stoicism, one of the primary teachings is to detach ourselves from the need for external validation. The Stoics firmly believe that our worth should never be determined by others' opinions or approval, but by our adherence to virtue, wisdom, and reason. Epictetus, one of the leading Stoic philosophers, reminds us in his discourses, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. This advice challenges the common human desire for validation, encouraging us to be indifferent to how others perceive us. The Stoic ideal is to focus solely on living a life aligned with reason and virtue, regardless of the judgment or approval of others. Rather than striving to prove yourself to others, Stoicism teaches us that our energy should be devoted to improving ourselves from within. It is not about outward validation, but about internal growth and acting in accordance with wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Why? You shouldn't have to prove yourself. When you find yourself constantly trying to prove your worth, it's crucial to understand that this is not your natural state. It's a response triggered by the manipulation of others. Gaslighters strategically create an environment where they challenge your reality, and as a result, you feel compelled to explain, defend, and prove yourself. The act of trying to prove yourself usually stems from insecurity, but in Stoicism, we recognize that insecurities are rooted in misplaced attachments and desires for external approval. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, tells us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When we shift our focus inward, recognizing that our true worth comes from living virtuously, we free ourselves from the constant need to prove our worth to others. The Stoic practice of focusing on internal validation teaches us that we don't need to constantly prove our actions or beliefs. Instead, our energy should be spent on living a principled life, and the satisfaction that comes with this is far more rewarding than any fleeting external approval. Overcoming the need to justify yourself. The constant battle to prove yourself usually involves justifying your actions or explaining your thought processes to others. But when you're influenced by gaslighting, you become caught in a cycle of over-explanation, apologizing for things that don't need to be apologized for, or feeling that your decisions are wrong simply because someone else doesn't agree with them. This tendency to over-explain happens because you're trying to make others see your truth, or worse, convince them that you're right or worthy. Unfortunately, in the face of a manipulator, this will never work, because the objective of a gaslighter isn't truth or understanding but control. They may reject your explanations or twist them, leaving you drained and perpetually seeking approval. From a Stoic standpoint, this constant justification is futile. Stoics understand that their actions should be in accordance with virtue, and that's all that matters. For the Stoic, moral integrity doesn't need external affirmation, because it rests on a steadfast commitment to wisdom. You do not owe anyone an explanation beyond the truth of your own actions. Your peace of mind and adherence to virtue are more important than defending your every move. How to stop proving yourself to others. To break free from the need to prove yourself to others, you can employ several Stoic practices. Focus on the dichotomy of control. Recognize that you cannot control what others think or say. You only have control over your own actions and reactions. Marcus Aurelius encouraged us to focus solely on what's within our power and accept what is beyond it. Trying to prove yourself to someone is a direct attempt to control what is outside your realm of influence. When you let go of this attempt, you'll free yourself from the endless cycle of self-justification. Ground yourself in inner virtue. Begin to see your self-worth through the lens of Stoic virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. By doing so, you shift your validation from external praise to internal accomplishment. Ask yourself, am I acting in accordance with my values? If the answer is yes, then no further explanation is needed. A Stoic doesn't seek approval from others because they already derive satisfaction from virtuous living. Embrace silence over explanation. Stoicism teaches the importance of self-control and knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. If you feel the urge to justify yourself, ask yourself whether this need for explanation is coming from an inner need to gain approval or from an authentic desire to help others understand. Many times, silence can be more powerful than any words of defense. By remaining calm and unperturbed, you deny the gaslighter the control they seek, and you also save yourself unnecessary energy. Reject the need for approval. The key to Stoic peace is accepting that the judgment of others is not what defines you. You are not meant to seek constant affirmation from the world around you. Instead, you should look inward, measuring your actions based on whether they align with your true principles, rather than whether others approve. Finding strength in self-sufficiency. The Stoic ideal of self-sufficiency, or autarkia, is central to this lesson. When you stop seeking to prove yourself, you cultivate an inner strength that is not reliant on external forces. Gaslighters depend on your vulnerability and need for approval to control you. Once you recognize that you don't need others' approval to define your worth, you break free from this influence. Epictetus reminds us, the greater the difficulty, the more glory in surmounting it. Skillful pilots gain their reputation from storms and tempests. The challenge of resisting the need to prove yourself in a world full of opinions is like a storm for a Stoic pilot. With patience, virtue, and rational thinking, you will emerge stronger and with greater clarity. The urge to prove yourself to others is a dangerous trap that distracts you from living a life based on your own values. In Stoicism, the antidote to this constant defense is a deep understanding that true peace comes from within. You don't need to prove who you are because your actions, aligned with virtue, define you. As Marcus Aurelius said, when you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love. True freedom comes when you stop seeking validation from others and find peace in the simplicity of living virtuously. Once you embrace this truth, you'll break free from the exhausting need to explain yourself and instead live with confidence, grounded in your own sense of self. Gaslighting can shake even the strongest among us, but with the wisdom of Stoicism, you can stand firm in the face of manipulation. Remember, your reality and values are yours to define, not anyone else's. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button and subscribe for more insights on applying Stoic principles to modern challenges. Share this video with someone who might need these reminders, and let us know in the comments how Stoicism has helped you stay grounded, stay strong, stay stoic, and we'll see you in the next video.